today's resignation. Take a look.
I received the resignation of Ambassador John Bolton. I accept it. I'm not happy about it. I think he deserved to be confirmed. The reason why I think he deserved to be confirmed is because I know he did a fabulous job for the country.
All right, there you have it. Joining me now is Jed Babin, former Undersecretary of Defense, P.J. Crowley, Senior Fellow at the Center for American Policy. I don't know if Mr. Babin is strapped in, so P.J., let me get your view. This really comes out. Joe Biden said, no way, the new chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I think this is very, very unfair to Bolton, who's done a bang-up job. But what's your quick take, P.J.?
Well, hang on a second. First of all, George Voinovich, Republican of Ohio, is the reason why Bolton is a recess appointment, and Lincoln Chafee, Republican of Rhode Island, is the reason why he will not be confirmed or advanced to the Senate before the end of this particular
Well, Voinovich came out and said he'd vote for him. He said he'd vote for him. He changed his view. He wrote an op-ed piece in the Washington Post, PJ. Come on. You know this is the work. Yes, Lincoln Chafee, turncoat that he is in Rhode Island, sour grapes that his butt was kicked. And if you ask me, that's a good thing for the Republicans and Democrats that this guy is going to be out of the Senate. But basically, the controlling influence is Joe Biden, is it not?
Well, I mean, the reality is that John Bolton could have continued in his present position if he was willing to work for nothing. But you can't be appointed to 2 recess appointments in a row. The Senate has really said this is not the guy, so it's up to the president to nominate somebody else.
Well, Jed Babin, I want to get back to Mr. Bolton's qualifications and what he did on the job. I thought his performance is pretty darn good. But there is this rumor that is flashing about that former Senate Majority Leader, a liberal Democrat, George Mitchell, might replace Bolton. What kind of a trade would that be, Jed?
Well, it's like trading a Corvette for an Impala. It's just not a trade that you want to make because you're trading way down. I mean, George Mitchell is a statesman-like figure, Larry, which means he'll sell away the farm every chance he gets. He's a consensus kind of guy. He's not going to do what needs to be done. Quite frankly, I think this is a great opportunity for the president because I think what we need now is somebody else who's not confirmable and would have to be there on a freeing recess appointment. How about, I don't know, some retired Marine general go in there and kick butt and growl at those guys.
How about Jed Babin? By the way, I just want to say,
I'm available.
I just want to say for the record, George Mitchell is an old acquaintance of mine, and I think the world of him personally, though I have many disagreements with him politically and on policy issues. But again, Jed, let me go back. I started with PJ on this. North Korean, what sanctions we were able to get. It seems to me Bolton was driving this process. Bolton kept the heat on the Iranian nuclear sanctions process, almost impossible as that may be. And the other thing is Bolton tried to keep the heat on the need for the corrupt UN to undertake some reforms. Now, Kofi Annan wouldn't play, but maybe the next guy will. I mean, I don't really get the case against Bolton. That's what troubles me here.
I don't get it either. If you look at his record, he's a very effective diplomat. He was one of the people who engineered the repeal by the General Assembly of the Zionism is racism resolution. That repeal was done in 1991 under his aegis. He set up, or with Paul Wolfowitz set up the Proliferation Security Initiative, which is tremendously effective in trying to interdict shipments of weapons of mass destruction. Bolton's a very effective diplomat because he's willing to say the truth and because he's willing to push a little bit. The problem we have had with every other UN ambassador since Jeane Kirkpatrick is they haven't been willing to push. George Mitchell's a great guy, but he's not the kind of aggressive man we need there.
So, PJ, let me ask you substantively, policy-wise, content-wise, if I may, what is your beef with John Bolton?
Well, he's not a diplomat, and I think Jed just dissed a whole lot of statesmen who've done some great work for the United States, both Democrats
like
and
Andrew
Republicans.
Young and Madeleine Albright.
Come on, like Tom Pickering and John Negroponte, who's now the Director of National Intelligence for us. I mean, look, at this point in time, what John Bolton did in the past was not as UN ambassador. We are isolated in the world. We cannot win the war on terror, as we call it, unless we're able to mend these kinds of fences, you need a statesman-like figure. I'm highly skeptical that George Mitchell will take the job. He's part owner of the Boston Red Sox, my beloved team. I think he's got his hands full trying to work on steroids in baseball.
PJ, you never told me you were a Red Sox fan. I mean, that casts a whole different light on our relationship as a diehard Yankee fan. But who's your man, PJ? If not George Mitchell, and again, I just want to say this. Personally, I think the world of George Mitchell. Politically is where I have my disagreements. PJ, who's your pick? Carl Yastrzemski, or who do you want in the UN? Who do you want in the UN?
Anyone but Bucky Dent, I'll tell you.
Serious question, because this is a serious job, and we are going to have, can we all agree, for one, we are going to have some sense of international relations and working through the United Nations. As difficult as that may be, there's no way around the fact that whether it's Iranian nukes, whether it's North Korean nukes, whether it's the next steps in Iran or a Middle East conference, a regional conference and so forth, we are going to have the United Nations offices. I won't call them good offices, just offices. PJ, who's your choice?
Well, I think that Jim Leach, late congressman from Iowa, looking for a job. He served at the UN before. I think he'd be the kind of guy that get bipartisan support here in the United States and would signal a change in tone, if not in substance, for the Bush administration in New York.
Jed Babin, how about Newt Gingrich?
No, I think Newt is just absolutely the worst guy for that job. He wants to give away the First Amendment, for heaven's sake. What we need is somebody like retired Marine General P.X. Kelly. Go in there, kick butt, and take names.
Have we ever had a military person in that position?
No, I don't think so, and I think it's high time we did. I mean, there's a lot of really good, smart guys who might not pass constitutional muster, but again, I think this is a great opportunity. We don't want somebody who Joe Biden's going to approve.
All right, the fact that Mr. Bush, who a week or two ago said, under no circumstances will I back away from John Bolton, the fact that, all right, Bolton resigned, fair enough, I understand that. What does this whole episode tell you, Jed Babin, about last 2-year foreign policy in the Bush administration? What does the music tell you?
Well, I think the music tells me we're going into an intermission for 2 years. The president's not going to be able to do much. It's going to require congressional approval or cooperation because he's simply not going to get it. Joe Biden wants to have a peace conference, a regional peace conference with Iran and Syria, which is an absolute guarantee of failure. You can't work through the UN. You're not going to be able to work through Joe Biden. The president can do what he can do on his own. He's not going to get much else done.
P.J. Crowley, weigh in on Mr. Joe Biden, Senator Biden. This is a victory for Mr. Biden. He is a potential presidential candidate. Does this mean his foreign policy influence, this victory, mean that his foreign policy influence is ascending?
Well, I think that this is a signal that the United States Senate is going to begin to do its job and exercise oversight of the executive branch. It's something that we haven't seen for the last 2 or 4 years. So I think this really signals that on Bolton, on Iraq, on a range of issues, the Senate's going to come forward and challenge the assumptions behind, the Bush administration's policies, the status that we have in Iraq and other places. I don't necessarily see this through the same, bipartisan lens or partisan lens, shall I say, that Jed does.
All right. Well, of course, politics is hardball. I love that. I don't like bipartisanship. I like the battleground of ideas. But you two guys are going to stay right with us. Now, there is, in addition to all this, a major confrontation brewing between congressional Democrats like Senator Carl Levin, when they want an early exit strategy, and then President Bush and Pentagon planners who don't want us out early. Plus, Sunday Unspun, Gallup's